Hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Night Soul Stitching with Captain Stitches. I'm Jean and my little friend over here. But anyway, good evening. It is great to see everyone that is in the chat already. We have Michelle, welcome to you, and Joyce, Katie, Debbie Williams, let me see, Carol, and I believe that is everyone so far. They are all saying hello to each other. Welcome, welcome to you this evening. It is great to see you. And as you may notice, I am in a different area than I normally am on Saturday evenings. But I am changing the topic a little. And as you notice, this is a special edition of Saturday Night Soul Stitching. So going off the regular schedule on what I would have been doing this evening and going to talk a little bit about what I call my KISS principle. What is KISS? Well, it could be kept in stitches, or it could be keep it simple. Or maybe I refer to that KISS principle as both kept in stitches, keeping it simple and fun. So that is what I will be discussing on how I keep my stitching fun and simple. So let me see. I think I saw Francis also hop in. Welcome to you. It is great to see you this evening. Um, and Jen is here. Welcome, welcome. It is great to see you. Yes, I recognize you from the Discord group. And Melody is here. I think I saw Danielle pop in. There she is. Good evening to you. And that is everyone so far. If I miss someone, it's not intentional as always, just that chat has a tendency to move pretty fast sometimes. And so I will try to welcome everyone, but sometimes I may miss one or two of you. Good evening, Donna. It is great to see you as well. But yes, getting back on topic and why I decided to discuss stitching and how I keep it simple and fun is because here lately, I've kind of gotten away from the fun of stitching. It's become more that I have been working on projects because I have to, not because I want to. And that can take the fun, the simplicity, and the joy out of your stitching. So I'm going to discuss how you can get that back and keep it simple and keep it enjoyable and bring the joy back into that. And I see that the chat is moving again. Eva is here. Welcome to you, Eva. We have all of our wonderful what I call the green troop there that are our Stitching Friends members of the channel, supporters. Welcome to you all. And let me see, we have Lorraine here as well this evening. And we have Rudy again. Welcome to you, Rudy. So going on again, getting back, sorry, jumping back and forth between welcoming people in and getting back on topic. But yeah, I've recently, things in life happen. And sometimes you just get away from what has been your way of doing things, and it takes a little different course for a while. Well, it's taken that course for a bit too long for my liking, and I am going to get back to doing what and a good thing for soul stitching because it comes from the soul and comes from the heart on what actually brings me joy in my stitching. And those of you that have come to know me know that my true favorite thing in quilting and stitching is anything that is done by hand. And I have kind of gotten away. Yes, I've been working on some things, but things that are because I'm a content creator and I have to work on because I am working on them as a series and showing them to you, but not really getting to just randomly work on the projects that I would like to be working on. And that is part of keeping it simple. When it becomes stressful because you're not enjoying what you are working on, that is when you just really don't want to be doing what you're doing anymore. And I love what I'm doing. I love sharing my love of stitching and everything with all of you. So I want to get back to that happy place, that joy of keeping it simple and always working on something that brings me the joy, that is something that has called out to me that particular day, that particular time, and says, yes, that is what I want to work on. So that is how you keep it simple. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on that, because the principle of keeping it simple and fun, and see, I always throw that and fun in there. We want it to be fun and we want it to be simple. Yes, working on things at times can become very stressful. And I don't need to add that additional stress to my life at this point in time. So I am going to work on the things that have always been what touches my heart, what touches my soul, what calms me, what brings me that sense of calm and keeps me calm through the storm that may be going on around me. Oh, the word just left me. That was right on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, it brings me to that peaceful state, that calm state. And what are some of those things that do that are what I'm going to be discussing. And some of the things that you may have in just in your stitching area. I'm in my hand stitching corner right now. Those of you that know me are aware of that. That is where I am coming from this evening, instead of at my desk over at the sewing machine. And I would try, because one of the things that can keep it simple and bring you the joy in your stitching, is to have areas in your stitching cottage, your stitching room, your crafting room, wherever it may be, that are little displays of things that also have meaning to you. A little corner that is decorated differently, instead of all the fabrics and the projects and things that have a tendency to surround you, which that is quite kind of what this corner is. And I'll try and see if I can move this just a little bit so you can see. Over in this corner next to me, you can see that that's kind of a display area where I have some nifty things set up. And then I also, let me get back to where I was here. I also have my mother's old train case that I have made into a sewing case for myself instead, that keeps the things in. And one of the things you may be wondering, what is this in the corner? That happens to be 3 roses from the rose bushes that I have. The darker yellow one is from the climbing yellow rose bush that is right outside the front of the stitching cottage. And the other 2 are from the front rose bush that my dear friend Debbie Williams gave to me, and it blooms profusely. So I decided that those were beautiful blooms, and I cut those, I think it was the day before yesterday, and brought them out here in a vase, because that's another way to keep it simple and bring joy to your stitching. But let me see if there are any questions in there. I see that it moved a little bit, and Debbie says, so glad you are doing this. Well, thank you. And Alexandra, this is her first time catching me live. Hello, well, welcome. It is great to see you. And Katie says that the flowers are beautiful. But moving on, and I'm just going to turn. I have a few little notes in front of me, but one of the other things that keeps it simple is being organized. And Yeah, you know that organization is my middle name. I am always organizing. I am OCD and I like things organized and in order around me. So that is also one of the things that can keep it simple in your stitching. And yes, that is a very important thing to me. So I like containers for my projects that are also pretty. And that when you glance at them, just glancing at something pretty sitting around you instead of just piles of projects, piles of fabric, that type of thing can also bring you joy in your stitching. And I have a couple examples of that up here, which this is a cute little box that I have, has that pretty bow on it. And it also has a really nice saying on it. And it says, life's happiest moments are made and shared with friends. And then inside this, as the other one is trying to slide off my lap, is stuff that has been pulled for a slow stitching project. So that is kept in a pretty box that when it's not being used, sets up on a shelf and adds to that atmosphere and it looking nice in the area that I'm working. And this is another example. It's very much like the other one, has the little magnetic, closing on it. And again, in this one, is I love fabric with words or writing on it, but this is also one that has supplies and stuff in it for doing. This one has more for doing needle books in it that are also slow stitching, but that's what is in this right now. And that's just a couple of examples of how you can keep some of your projects instead of it just being willy-nilly thrown around you, which I think I have one more down here. And right now I'm going to try and figure out, excuse me, as I bend over and set that down on the floor. And we'll hope that whip doesn't decide to get in it. But another example, if you have a larger project, which is this one right here in this bigger box. It's actually a suitcase type one, very nice one. And it also has saying on top of it, and it says, nothing is worth more than this day. Believe in miracles, just breathe, be grateful, dream big, keep calm, dance like nobody's watching, help others, follow your heart, enjoy the journey. So if you're our organizing energizer, says Debbie Williams. All right. Oh, and Sewing with Lorraine is also here. Welcome to you. And says he is saying hello to all of his awesome quilting friends. And Maritza is also here. Almost missed you. That moved more than what I saw. And Zaza is here also. Welcome, welcome. I think that is everyone. But in this, oops, as I shake the camera and everything else, in this case is a project that I have not started yet, but it is one that I have been wanting to do and hope to be able to start very soon. But it is one of the Jen Kingwell quilts. And it is the one that happens to be on the cover of this book. I'll try and open that so you can possibly see that maybe a little bit. Oops, nope, that's not going to work. Shadow's going to show on that. We'll see if this one shows up a little better, but it is that quilt right there. I think the one on the front shows up the best, but that is going to be done all by hand piecing and hand stitching. So that is going to be an awesome project, and everything is in this case ready and waiting for that. The fabrics are all in here, beautiful Tilda fabrics, and the templates and everything else that I'm going to need. So that is an awesome way to also keep a project in a decorative container instead. And Whip kind of took the space that I had that sitting at under there. He'll move a little bit. But yes, Swift is in the house. He is right underneath the table here. But yes, except that is not EPP. Zaza, that is actually hand piecing with templates. It's not English paper piecing. So that will all be done without any papers at all. It is traditional hand piecing. And in here, I have some other examples of projects that keep it simple and bring me joy. Whoops. Which, of course, first of all, we can go ahead and mention the basket that is in, which this is one of the market baskets that I have been crocheting and making several of. This is one that I am keeping for myself. This beautiful, beautiful colors that kind of match the cottage, but holds a lot of stuff. So they're nice to have around. But one of the things that is in here is a little embroidery piece that I did. And it says, I cannot count my day complete till needle thread and fabric meet. And that is very true. And that is in there because along the way, it'll be added to some slow stitching project. But I also, as you know, love to journal. So in that love of journal, I have made a cloth journal. It is quilted, and I think some of this stuff, I am going to switch camera angles right now. I'm going to use the other camera because I think some of these will actually show up better on the other camera. So there we are. But that is this journal right here. And you can see it is done kind of in a little bit of slow stitching style, not quite as much, but there is some lace and stuff added on here, my initials, so we know whose journal it is. But this is done in patchwork. We'll open it up so you can see the front and back at the same time. Beautiful fabrics that I chose, and of course some that have the words and writing on that. And then I added the lace to it, of course, after I quilted it, but that is hand quilted as well, as you can see. But hand quilted, stitched together, binding, and then inside it is made like a junk journal with all of these different pages in it that are from different decorative papers. Some are just really thin sheets. I was going to try to get to that. But what I am going to use this journal for is on some of the pages, I will be writing thoughts of that day or whatever, but I am going to be making slow stitching tags and adding them daily, or as much as I can daily, to these pages, just according to whatever strikes my fancy that day. So that is what that journal is intended for. And Michelle says she has that same box. Yes, that box has been around for a while. It's one of the neater ones. I had the smaller one that is like that also, Michelle. And Debbie says, ooh, that is so beautiful. Cute. Oh, right. And then also, we have what is going to be a snippet roll. That is what it is referred to as. And I have what is the initial one that I did that is kind of tells what the snippet roll is going to be about, and it is called Follow Your Heart. And I know some of you have seen this before, but it has the 3 hearts over there, has yo-yos to look like flowers, the stems going up. It has antique buttons on it, lace added, all that kind of thing. And then what this is going to be, because what does follow your heart mean to me? Well, keep it simple. It means family. So this is going to be all about a family. And this just happens to be a favorite picture of mine of my two of my grandchildren. It's Jack and Jewel. And I have started some of the stitching on there. And then I have thrown in here some that will be added to it, which of course you saw this one that I just did. That is the tracing of my hand with all the decorative embroidery on there. That will be going in there and added to that. So that is going to, yes, will be one that is all has to do with family. And this is also a page that is, oops, upside down. Sorry about that. That is completed, and that is an older picture of myself and my husband. And I printed it out in black and white. I thought it would look better than in the color. And the little red button on there is added because to remind me that that dress was actually red. So we have the red accents on it in that memory. And we have a beautiful braiding go around that to make it look like it is a frame. Some stem stitching also added to that. We have the hexagons that I cut out of fabrics and then did decorative stitching on them. Some beadwork going on up here. And then in this fabric back here, enhanced it with some embroidery stitching, again, adding the red and some red beads to add that in. There's a little heart on this one that says made with love. And then this actual fabric down here had sunburst in it. So that is embroidered as well. We've got some lace added to the bottom down here. It's hard to see here, but there is some feather stitching on the edge there. And yeah, and that's basically it. But that page will also be added in there along with some of my other favorite family photos. And then of course it will just be all rolled up once it is done and will be set on the coffee table in the living room as a conversation piece and for people to look at. But then we also have some other little examples of hand stitching that brings joy. This is, oh, well, I guess it's about a year old because it is the fall themed one. It says fall is here. And it is done with fall type fabrics on the back of it. We have a button with a flower here. Of course, we have this beautiful pumpkin that was I stamped on the fabric and then added all the embroidery work on there, trying to get it the right direction for you, hold it so it'll focus. But that is all embroidery. Added this little piece of a doily because it reminded me of a pine cone. And then we have fabric, of course, with words on here again, and it talks about white-tailed deer, woodland splendor, sugar maples, Northwoods, travel adventures, all the kind of things that associate with fall. But that is just, and the thing that I guess I should explain a little bit why I consider this keep it simple and fun, because there is no pattern to these. This, you just pick up some fabrics, you go to where you keep your collection of laces and trims and buttons and things that you may want to add for embellishments. And you just let it speak to you, and you start with one little thing and then decide what you want to do as you go. So it is very calming, very therapeutic because you're not using a pattern. You are just going off whatever comes to mind and what you decide you want to do with it. And then this is one that on the other side has the next month, December's stitching on it. So of course it is a Christmas theme, which has this, if I turn it this way, you can see a little better, Christmas tree that has been stitched out of leftover strips of fabric. There's actually ribbon also there. There's some fun fur yarn that's been couched down. I've done so it looks like you've got the popcorn and cranberries, which is done with alternating pearls and red beads. If I hold that up, you can see that a little better, but that's Kind of looks like you're stringing the popcorn and the cranberries and putting on the tree. And then, of course, we have the star on the top of the tree, and that's from the middle of an old doily. Have some fabric that has snowflakes behind it and dots. And what I did with that is I put French knots on the ends of the snowflakes. And then I added French knots throughout on little dots that were on the fabric and added the pearls. So it looks like snow in the night sky on the background. And then just happen to have this snowflake button also. But then down here, you have made notice that is the other part of the doily. And it's to look like packages underneath the tree. This is bead work on those. And then this beadwork actually, and I don't, but it says a Merry Christmas along the bottom of that. But that is, some stitching that can take you back to keep it simple, which this one really keeps it simple. All it is some blue pieces of fabric thrown on there, stitched down, found some gold fabrics, cut little squares out of them, and it goes this direction instead, but then added so that it looks like these are going to be flowers, and those are the center. So we have stitching then just randomly going out from that to add, so it is going to look kind of like a flower when it is done. But again, that is just an example of things that calm and bring joy, because it starts out as just a plain piece of fabric. You add whatever to it and it becomes something beautiful in the end, which this is kind of going on a neutral theme. When you look at that closely, all those dots on there are French knots that were added all the way, if I get this going the correct way, all the way around that square there. And then we have a little flower with a button added down here. We have some pearls added here and some decorative stitching and just a lot of stitching. And there is stitching on top of the maple leaf that was cut out of fabric there. But that's just some examples of the slow stitching and how that can bring back the keeping it simple. And this, I'm not gonna show this. We'll just open that. You've seen that lately. That's just a needle book, another style of that. And of course, the other little needle book here. That is another example of just sitting and deciding whatever it is you want to do, and then it becomes useful afterwards. And Siberian Wind is here, and also Joe from Vintage Style by Joe. Welcome to both of you. So creative and gorgeous, says Katie Crafts. Thank you very much. And Donna says, love what I call no-brainer stitching. Yes, I need that some days after work and life. Yes, it is so therapeutic and so calming, and that is why I call it, put it in my keep it simple category. But and the other, some of you are going to recognize this and know that this is Kawandi. And it is also no pattern, no rhyme, no reason, all hand stitching, adding patches of fabric as you go, and you work from the outside in, which is very different than most of our stitching when we are making quilts. But, and I have, this is part of the soul stitching series that I am doing. So you will get more information on that as you go, because that is part of what I am working on a couple larger projects of the Kawandi. So that is very, very calming and fun to do. And the other thing that we have in here, and I know this is going to be hard for you to see, but there are those projects that are ones that are really, really close to your heart. And this is one of those. This is a whole cloth quilt, so it is going to be a little hard to show up on camera because it's basically, you know, off-white on off-white. That's what it's going to appear as. But there is a lot of hand quilting that has been done to this. And it is a round tablecloth done in whole cloth. And it is kind of like a poinsettia done in a wreath. And I think you can see that stitching on there now. And the colors in this do not show up, but the scroll work is actually done in gold thread. The leaves are done in green thread. And well, let me see, the berries are done with red thread. So that is that. And if I bring that up a little closer, I think you can see some of that stitching better, but that is all hand quilting. Once again, sorry, I'll try and keep it still, just trying to go to some of the different areas of it. But this is a whole cloth quilt that I was making for my mother, and she happened to pass away while I was working on it before I got it done. So this will be completed and it will be for myself instead. So that, again, I call it keep it simple because it is hand quilting, something to just pick up when that is what is speaking to you at the moment, and that's what you want to be working on. Oh, sorry that I'm bending over and getting some of these things out of the way so I can go on to some of the other suggestions, which will bring this down right now because this is also a hand quilting project. It is in my lap hoop that I always have something on to just pick up and be working on. And so that is also hand quilting that is being done. And we're gonna slide that out of the way under the table here. Poor Whip's gonna get up and move now. He says, I'm losing my space, which the quilt on my lap is also, this is just a little fun, whimsical one. I call it whimsical. It's done out of 30 reproductions, and it has all the background that is just simple piecing. And then it has these two great big, huge cone flowers that are appliqued on top of it. And that is done by hand applique, not machine. It is a blanket stitch that's done by hand. And the stem's going all the way down. This is a quilt that I will be quilting by hand in what is referred to as big stitch quilting. It's just taking larger stitches in your hand stitching than what you do when you are doing a normal hand quilting. But one of the other things, and this goes back to the organization again, and having things that are pretty, but yet still useful. But these are a bunch of the threads that I use for slow stitching and also in Kawandi and that type of thing. So I have them neatly and organized in these containers right here, which this is all my spaghetti thread. And when you lift that up, there is actually 2 layers in here. There is another one under both of these that are on top. So that is a neat way of having all your threads handy and organized, ready to just grab and use instead of having to look all over for them. And then there is more in here. And these are some of the decorative ones that are used more for embroidery and that type of thing. But those are in there so that they are pretty and easy to get to and pull. Part of the organization, which again helps to keep it simple. If you are organized, it is always more simple. And yes, I forgot to say the name of this. Thank you, Debbie. The name of this quilt is Sassafras. And that is one that Debbie Williams, who gets to come over to the cottage every once in a while, not as much lately, but we'll get back to that. It's been, you know, those things in life going on. But so her and I both worked on this. She made a quilt and I made a quilt working on these at the same time, and neither one of us have them quilted yet. So hope to get to that. But this is, and I will show you, which this is one of the ones that is, yes, bringing a lot of joy to my stitching. And it is the denim shirt dress that I am working on doing, adding slow stitching, embroidery, all that kind of thing to it. This is the back, the center of the back where the mandala is placed. And I have been working on the embroidery work on that, as you can see, and all of the decorative strips of fabric that are all batiks that are going around that, and we'll have decorative stitching added to all of them. Right now, they are needle turn by hand, applique down, all of these. Some of the ones on the front, I have started some of the stitching, which you can see on this one that's just got some big stitching. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 rows right now that are going through that. I hold that up, you can see that a little bit better. This one just has started on some stitching on that, but yeah. And then of course, all the way around the bottom, we have the whimsical floral border that will be embroidered going all the way around the bottom of the dress. And I have been stitching on that also, as you can see. But this is one that is so much fun to work on. And it's also, you know, adding, there's no pattern to it, no rhyme or reason. I just decided what I want to do as I go along. And that's how I do that. And this is the container that has all the threads that I am using while working on that. And we are using several different kinds, weights, and different types of thread. So we have all of the one kind up in the top drawer. We have some flosses, some other decorative, some other spaghetti thread in there, in that. And then we have our some pearls that I plan on adding, some other beads for embellishment and stuff along the way. These are the two ones that I'm using right now for the stems and leaves on all those flowers. And we have more of the fabrics and stuff underneath here, and needles, of course, and that type of thing. But everything right there to just be able to go over, pull the project off the dress form that I have it stored on when I'm not working on it, and decide, okay, we're going to work on that today. And the project, of course, that was for this evening would have been working on is my, it's the middle size one of the ones that I am doing in this series. I'm doing a smaller one that is going to be the back side of a large bag. And then I am doing this one on the African fabrics. That is a lap size. And then I will be doing a, yeah, this is a wall hanging size. And then I will be doing a lap size out of some of my Tilda fabrics. But this is what I would have been working on this evening had I not decided to discuss the keep it simple and bring the joy back into the stitching, which I got my first round all the way around that edge that you initially do to start with the first row of patches, and then have added my filler. And I'm using a very thin piece of flannel in mine, but that is now in there. So it is ready to continue on with the stitching on the second round. And I see I have some time, so I might go ahead and thread my needle, and I can be stitching on this as I talk, which for this I use, oops, going the wrong direction. This is actually a Sashiko thimble but I use it when I am doing the quandary because you can find some spots that can get really hard to push that needle through. So you can use this in your palm to push the end of the needle instead of your finger. And then of course, I also still use my thimble. And I also use one of the little rubber tips on my finger to help me be able to pull that needle. And this is the color thread that I'm using for all of the hand quilting on this. And hello, Andrea. It is great to see you this evening as well. Welcome. Oh, and I miss Tracy. Hello there, Tracy. It is great to see you also. And Zaza says, wow, that's beautiful. Thank you. And Joyce is saying good night. She is going to leave us. Have a great evening, Joyce. Thank you for being on. And yeah, you don't want much more than, an arm's length of thread because you'll just get it tangled and knotted. And so that is the length that I always cut mine at. And I am using the spaghetti thread. It is a Wonderfill thread. And I am using a size, I believe it's a size 3 Milner's needle, a long one, because you need a long needle to do this to be able to push through the thicknesses of the fabric. And just gonna do my normal quilter's knot to get started here. About that. But yeah, this is one of my, has become, and I am going to work up through my corner that isn't stitched here because we add our fulla in there at the very end after our quilting is done, but I am going to hide my knot underneath here, and I'm going to keep my rows of stitching approximately, I need to get it over here so it's the same, approximately a 1/4 inch to a half. Yeah, about a 1/4 inch apart. But that, oops, the knot wasn't thick enough. Okay, we'll wrap it an extra time. It came right through. Didn't make a big enough knot. Put another wrap on it, Jean. Don't want that to pull through. I think that slid on me when I did that, but we shall see. Okay. Going between the layers again, only because I can right down here. When I get farther along, I'll have to pop that through the top like you normally do. But right now, because I'm in that corner, I can hide it under there. And it will be stitched in. Right. Just seeing if I'm in. And I'm right there where all those layers of fabric in that corner come together. And so it gets a little hard. And when you are doing the stitching on a Kawandi, which Kawandi means quilt, so we just call it Kawandi. But when you are doing the stitching on that, it is very similar to big stitch quilting. It is a running stitch, and you have a 1/4 inch on top for your length of your stitch and about 1/8 of an inch on the underneath side. And you just keep going around the perimeter of your quandary in a concentric, yeah, rectangle or whatever, if it's square, it'd be a square but you're not crossing any of your lines. You just, when you get to the corner, you turn and continue going until I get past that little spot there. You can see that it does get a little tough to pull through. And I use my thumbnail to guide that needle, another finger on the bottom. And you don't want to take as many stitches as you would on regular quilting, because you will find that you will really have a hard time pulling that through then. But after you get that initial first round all the way around done, it becomes much easier and much faster, because except for when you go to where your patches meet and you have that folded over part that you're going through 4 layers of fabric, it is much easier to stitch through than that initial edge that you're stitching all the way with 4 layers of fabric there. And as you know, I'm using African prints, and some of those can be a little denser fabric also. I could probably, let's see, probably get the camera down here. Oops, sorry. Right. We'll try to stop the shaking of it there. If I don't hit it again. So you can possibly see. I don't think that's going to help you to see my actual stitching, but I'm in a little awkward position here than what whoa. That part on there, it doesn't want to go through. We're only taking 1 stitch there. It didn't want to come through there. Hardly at all. But so I think you kind of get the idea of where I was going with the keep it simple. When you start feeling like you're not enjoying what you're doing anymore, you need to think about it and decide what is really important to you, and why is it that it's not fun anymore. And it's because I had taken the simplicity and the joy out of my stitching. So I'm going back to my KISS principle. Keep it simple and fun. I'm not going to worry about, and Carol, if you are still on here, I am not going to worry about my whips and the order that they are done, because they will always be there. The ones that call out to me and say, hey, you know, I really want to work on that one, are the ones that I will work on at that time, instead of feeling like, oh, because I have one, that's what I have to work on right now. That can take a lot of the joy in your stitching away, when you feel that you have to do it instead of wanting to do it. And I will admit, I am one that I have never worked on only one project at a time. I am someone that likes to work on multiple projects at a time, because I may not feel like working on that one particular project. And so I have another one that I can pick up and work on it instead. I know there are a lot of people that are totally the opposite. They work on one project until it is completed before they will start another one. I have never been able to do that. I never did that as when I was crafting as a child. So I'm not going to find myself doing that now. And that's okay, because it gives me a variety of projects to be working on and to always be able to work on something that is speaking to my heart that day or that moment in time. And I actually have this row a little farther apart than what I would like it. But I will fix that on the next row. It's okay. And if I don't like the way it looks in the end, I can go and I can add another round of stitching in between that row. Talking about what you had to eat. Okay. Sounds pretty good, Danielle. I was so busy today that we just had something really quick for our meal. As you know that I'm also still reorganizing out here. I got very frustrated the other morning when I was looking for the quilt that I showed you that is the whole cloth one that I had been making for my mother. I could not find it. And I got very frustrated and was kind of, arguing with myself about if I got the organizing done and didn't have so many things that I was having to step over and around and, move from one place to another, it maybe wouldn't be so hard to find something. Oh, so that is why the organization again is part of that keep it simple. I should have been able to go right to it, which is what I thought I was doing because I went right to where it used to be. But it wasn't there anymore. And Andrea has pizza on the way. It has been a busy day for me as well. I used to do pizza quite often when I was busy, but my husband doesn't have a very good time eating that anymore. So oops, I don't do that as often anymore. Got a knot here and I have to find out where it is. Thread's not going through. There we go. It was the other end of the thread got caught. But see how enjoyable and mindless this is? I mean, you could have, several people in your sewing room with you working on projects. And if it was something like this, you could all still be talking, having a good time because you don't have to concentrate as much on it. Not that there aren't projects, believe me. And by seeing some of the quilts that I've done that are complicated that I enjoy doing because it challenges me. And I like small pieces. But they are always things that are yeah, that touch my heart in one way or another. And a lot of that seems to end up being charity quilts because that is near and dear to my heart as well. Yes, you said you were going to do that, Danielle. She is saying that hubby made dinner after she boxed up one side of her sewing room, took apart the industrial sewing machine, and moved it out to the garage. Oh, you don't no longer want that. It's not going back in. Okay. And Siberian Wind says she won't be live Monday, just recording since there's measurements. That makes sense. Oh, Okay. And Debbie says, looking forward to being able to stitch with my friend again soon. Yes. And I do have things that are going on, but they got scheduled not on the day that we meet for this week coming up anyway, Debbie. So we should be able to get together on our regular day this week as long as you are free. I should be free and able. Now, where you may be able to sit in the stitching cottage is another dilemma, but I will see to it that I have that area cleared off for you. Or I'll just put you to work when you get here and you can help clear it off, okay? Uh, but as you can see too, some of these longer patches, I have a pin in them to keep them from flopping as much because there's nothing holding these down until you get that far in the stitching. And you have to start adding patches. It'll take a while to get to that point, except not so far for this one because this is a pretty short one. But you need to make sure that before you get to that half-inch mark, that your stitching is down here because you have to determine whether you're going to need to fold that one under the half-inch or whether the one on top of it is being folded according to the ones that are on, oops, can't see that are on either side of it. So that is where you're going to have to make a decision on your next patch. See, this one is folded under, this one isn't, and this one isn't. So that kind of tells me that that next patch is going to have to be folded on this side and this side, not that side, to or this one will have to be folded. I'll have to see when I get to that. But that is the thing that you have to determine when you are adding your patches on to the next round as you get going. So you have to remember not to stitch too far because you may have to turn that one under. And if you stitch too close, you don't have the half-inch needed to be able to turn that edge under. But I love that I can just sit here, relax. This is a recliner and a rocking chair, which if you ever see when I'm doing a live sitting in this, you know that, yes, it looks like the camera may be moving. No, it's because I'm sitting in a swivel rocker recliner and I like to rock and I forget that I'm rocking when I'm doing a live. And so I apologize for that. It's not the camera, it's actually me rocking. But this is one of my favorite places in the stitching cottage is my hand stitching corner. I will have a different area set up after I have been able to move the long arm out of here. I will have, it won't be a corner, it'll be a hand stitching area, but it will be a little bit larger area. Hopefully, that's the plan anyway. No rush, just missing it. Oh, I could do that. Now, where would you put it, Debbie? How do you know where I want that stuff? You just could move it from one spot to another, right? Oh, Yeah, it's become a little bit of an obstacle course out here right now. And I need to check. I don't have to worry about that. Making sure there isn't anything that I needed to be concerned with coming to this one. I was looking at it differently. The other thing that you want to make sure also is when you are coming to your next patch, you need to make sure because you don't want to be able to get, your finger or anything stuck in there. So you need to make sure you plan your stitch so that you have one going right in the very edge of where that fold is and where those fabrics meet. So it won't be flopping or loose. And this is one of the silkier um, African fabrics, so it gets a little slippery. And I just reverted back to some smaller stitches there. I need to remember to keep them bigger. We have some threads hanging out there. Get rid of those. I guess I better look at the time. Our hour is up. Just when I realized, oops, I'm not paying any attention to the time. Well, I'm going to get this stitch in because that's on where another patch meets. And look, I am running out of thread, so that was perfect, perfect timing. I will go ahead and do my knot. For those of you that may not know how you end that, you just take your needle, oops, which I almost didn't leave myself enough thread, and you just wind it around the tip of your needle a couple times, hold it like you're going to do a French knot, pull that through so your knot is right on top, close to where your last stitch was. I'm turning this because then you are going to take and you're placing your needle right in where you just came up with that last stitch, and you are taking it between the layers of the fabric and coming up over from that. Now I'm pulling it back this way because I want to hold my hand here, and you are going to tug, and that knot pops right through and it's buried in between the layers of the fabric. And then you can just put your thread up right on the top there. Oops. And so let's see, how far was I able to get? Was able to get a little more than, yep. Well, yeah, quite a bit more than halfway there on that. This is the end of that side. So, but yeah, I love that piece that's in there. But so I hope that some of the things that I discussed and showed and gave examples of may help you if you find yourself not not being as happy or joyful or whatever while you are stitching, or it just seems that things have gotten too complicated. Ways to keep it simple and fun in all of your stitching. And that includes, I know I showed mainly hand stitching things right now, but that also can be incorporated into all of your piecing by machine also. And I will, when I am doing stuff, I will bring up things that I consider that are part of that method in that as well. So, and Tracy is saying, enjoy the evening all. Thank you very much. You also. And sewing with Louine's has been fun. Happy sewing to all of you. And I saw that you are going to be going back live, Louine. That is great. That is awesome. I was going to contact you during that time, and I didn't. Yeah, there wasn't a way to comment on that specific video, and I didn't have your email, and I didn't go on your about information on your channel to find it out. But yeah, I will find out your email and email you one of these one of these days when I get around to it and remember. But yeah, but I'm glad to see that you are going to be doing your lives again. That's awesome. So, everyone, I will guess I could bring myself back in so you don't have to look at my hands, huh? There I am, still sitting here. But thank you for joining me this evening. I hope again that you will be able to be inspired in some way. It's always my goal to, if I can inspire just one person to try something different or think, oh, I didn't think of that, and maybe give one of my suggestions a try. That is awesome, because the only reason I do this is to bring my joy, my love of the needle arts and quilting to all of you and sharing it. So thank you very much. Have a great rest of your evening. Welcome back to, yeah, well, I guess it's Sunday tomorrow. I was almost going to say it was Monday, but we still have another day to the weekend. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone. And I will see you Monday morning for Monday mornings in the stitching corner. But take care, everyone. Bye-bye.